Also, very fundamentally, we should not equate anarchy with democracy. Anarchists are known to be Democrats.
Mr. Rally.
Edmond, let me respond to my colleagues' concerns here about the conduct of the police in Uganda. I agree. I mean, I am entirely in entire agreement with him that, you know, if you try to hit a policeman in the United States, the reaction would be very bad with the police. But not the police in the United States never goes around arresting leaders of the opposition unreasonably. The police in the United States has not in any way harassed the guy who was defeated by Obama.
Yes.
The police in the United States never moves around menacingly in public places on members, which creates fear.
Yes.
In the population of the people in the United States.
Yes.
Even if they were doing that, it does not mean that what is necessarily bad in the United States is necessarily good.
So what kind of law do we need? Should we remove some clause and have it, or should we take it out altogether, do other things?
For me, really, you know, the entire bill it's the present state is uncalled for.
We don't need it at all.
We don't need it at all. And we have been doing without it. And it is even meant, actually, you know, to take away the gains since 1986.
Right.
Since 1986. It attempts to take away those gains because I agree with my colleague here that in 1982, from 81, between 81 and 86, you could not think of holding a rally in Kampala where you could criticize the government. The trend is now different. That is the beauty of NRM.
Yes.
At the same time, my appeal and argument with my colleagues and friends in NRM has always been that please don't compare yourself with the Obote regime. Don't compare yourself with Idi Amin. You are expected to be far above that. Compare your best. Compare yourself with the best in Africa. I am not going to talk of the West.
Yes.
But also compare yourself with the best in Africa.
Mr. Nyago.
Look, some of the practices we have in our democracy here are the best in the world. When I look at, for example, when I put on CNN and look at, say, some of the parliaments in these Western countries, all I see there are graying old men. Look at our parliament, the youngest in the world.
Graying old men.
Yeah, graying old white men.
Old white, not black ones. Go on.
And our parliament is the youngest in the world, with a very significant portion of, and rightly so, of women. Very engendered and also very youthful. That's a sign of those are very good practices, amongst other things. Now, are gains being lost? I don't think so. Because this bill, I think, is there to consolidate the gains. You can't have a lot of policemen on the streets these days. I think policemen are equated with Kampala, as it was mentioned. It isn't by luck. It isn't by just good luck that Lonely Planet mentioned that Uganda is the favored destination to come and visit next year. Kampala, as you may know, is the safest city in the world. You see? And that's not by just God's grace. Somebody is working hard to ensure that we have safety in this city.
Thanks to the members at the roundabouts.
Oh yes, the Uganda police force and the NRM government under Museveni. God works through them in case there's providence.
We should consolidate that with the public order.
Oh yes, because regulation in a democracy is normal, and anarchy is not equated anywhere in the world with democracy. If you want to try anarchy, go to Somalia or Eastern DRC and you'll see what happens there.
But some people think the government is simply becoming intolerant. You're afraid people will come to the city squares.
Intolerant when they get 70% landslide. Which of those Western leaders got that kind of landslide? 70% landslide in this same year. I mean, had it been in his fourth year, we could have called him lame duck president. He has just got a renewed mandate, 70% landslide.
In fact, some people are calling it, what took place here was vote purchase.
What do you mean by vote purchase?
Oh, a lot of money was thrown. It was vote purchase. I mean, you get an LOC official who has never seen, who has not touched 100,000 shillings in years, and then all of a sudden, you know, you give him more, 120,000. So the effect is for him to mobilize the population and tell them, you know, how wonderful this government is, and actually even intimidate them. You know, these LC's officials, you know, because, and some people, you know, they go to a polling station, the policemen there's the military, menacingly with weapons. It creates, you know, an atmosphere of fear among the voters. It's true. It's true. So,
yes.
An atmosphere of fear is being created in this country
because of this law.
No, not
entrenched by this law.
And this law is actually meant to entrench it.
Right.
You know, we are looking at a scenario where recently some people wanted to organize a rally at Kololo, including members,
Kololo Airstrip,
including a member of NRM, a member of parliament. The Inspector General of Police told him, you cannot hold that rally. And yet, in earlier communication, it is the same Inspector General of Police who says, don't hold demonstrations in the center
of the city.
Of the city. Whenever you want to demonstrate, go to
the Kololo Airstrip.
Go to Kololo Airstrip.
Yes.
Now, the people want to go to Kololo Airstrip. He said, no, even there, you cannot.
You can't go there.
You can't go there. So, where are the people expected to demonstrate from? And of course, that is typical of you know, shifting of goalposts.
Oh, goalposts, yes.
By the NRM. Actually, I was amused. Sometime back, I was hearing my colleague here, Mr. Nyago. He was critiquing the people who said the president influenced the removal of term limits.
Yes.
He said, when in 1986, the president criticized African leaders
who stayed too long in power.
He was misunderstood. So it made me remember of the pigs in animal farm. That
Mr. Rari.
2 legs good, 2 legs, 4 legs bad. And then things begin to change. Is this law prone to abuse? Before you hear from Mr. Chino, how would it be abused briefly?
One,
this is in a village arresting people. How do you think it would be abused?
No, it would abuse here. Here's a scenario: you want to hold a rally and discuss the manner in which the government is conducting itself.
Right.
And now you are going to seek permission
from Kampala.
You
are in Kotido, maybe.
The police in Kotido. Of course, the police in Kotido will ask
Kampala,
and then Kampala, if it thinks, you know, it's going to negatively
affect
the government, the people who view the government.
Right.
It will refuse. 2, our constitution guarantees freedom of movement.
Yes.
Here is a scenario. The people want to move freely in a public place and demonstrate.
Okay.
And the minister is saying, no, you cannot go there without my permission.
Okay.
You know, it encourages on freedom of movement.
Okay.
The people want to...
Let's hear from this gentleman. Later, I'd like you to tell us what street law Uganda really would like to do. But first of all, Mr. Nyago.
Look, what the president meant about leaders staying long in power, you should bear in mind...
really would like to hear that.
Oh yeah. You should bear in mind the historical circumstance. It was the 86, as Mr. Arari has mentioned. And most leaders in the OAU then were unelected. So what we referred to were leaders staying long in power without a mandate.
Like Idi Amin, 8 years.
Oh, for sure, Idi Amin or Sekuture, many of those people. He was not referring to Senghor of Senegal, or he was not referring to Mwalimu Nyerere of Tanzania, or people like people in Mauritius, or Sasa Sekama who had mandates. No, he was referring to the many
unelected.
Exactly. So I mean, and I think that's a fair comment he made. Now, on the issue of comparing ourselves to President Museveni, for example, to Obote and Amin, though for sure the two are like, both are presidents.
Chalk and cheese.
It's like chalk and cheese. You can't compare the two. But that said, they are part of our history and we can't ignore that. They are part of our history and we can't ignore that. And as I've mentioned earlier on, in terms of good practices, Uganda, even in democracy, Uganda is leading. Let it be, say, in participatory democracy in the LC system. Let it be in terms of having youthful members of parliament. Let it be, say, in our decentralized system. By the way, the Commonwealth Local Government Association voted Uganda on a number of occasions, once or twice or thrice. Our local government system as the best in the Commonwealth because of its good practices. For sure, there are weaknesses. I'm not saying it's it's all perfect, but it's so. I mean, we are in the league, top league of democratic countries in the world.
This is Spectrum on Radio 1. You can join us on this discussion tonight. Our numbers 0414-348-111. That is 0414-348-111. 0312-260-390. 0312-261-390. Spectrum, hello.
Hello, good evening. Spectrum.
Good evening. Your name?
My name is Aisha Karanda.
Yes, Aisha.
Thanks for that wonderful discussion. I have two comments or questions to the land fellow. Number one, he says that this bill comes to undo the achievements that were made in the constitutional ruling. And earlier on, he had said that there are no rights that are not limited, that every right has, there's a limitation to every right, no right is absolute. In my opinion, I look at this bill as one that comes to operationalize Article 22 or 29? It is the article about human rights. I look at it as the law that comes to operationalize that. But him having said that there's no right that is absolute, how else does he suggest that government would put some limits on people's rights if they should not be absolute? Other than coming up with a regulation, how should we have put limitations? That's one. Number two, of course, I'll not make an attempt of comparing Museveni with Amin as he has advised and supported. But I know, for example, UK has this law that has been there for as long as 25 years. The Public Order Act 1986, which gives police mandate to regulate the number of people you have to bring in a demonstration. It has mandate to change the rules, even the venue, and even to refuse, and you have a right to appeal. It's almost the same thing. Does he find UK a lesser democracy because it has those limitations than ours? Because at the moment maybe we don't have them. If UK has it and he knows many of our laws are informed by the English laws, the laws in UK, why does he find it fit there and not here? Thank you very much.
All right. Spectrum, hello.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, good evening.
Good evening. Your name?
My name is David Rumi Street.
David, yes.
I strongly disagree with what Nyago has said because there is no substance in it. And I think he's trying to protect his job, and we don't protect jobs like that. I disagree with him.
Spectrum, hello.
Edmond.
Yes, sir. Your name?
Good evening.
Good evening to you.
Yeah, thanks for hosting your guests in the studio.
Your name?
Jim is the name.
Yes.
Bunga. One, I just want to have two things to share this evening. Kintu Nyago is a very good spin master. I just wanted to know if you can compare notes with Mosa. Mosa was the guy we last saw on Al Jazeera, talk for Gaddafi. Two, the issue about Ugandans wanting to ask for better rights, whether a few informed Ugandans can access what Kintu Nyago is saying now. Is it shared by even the peasants who now, for example, in Luwero, where they were saying, what does he explain? I know that paycheck is good, but talk about that. Thank you.
Spectrum, hello. Hello. Please tell us your name and where you are calling from. Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Yes, sir. Your name?
Moses in Luwero.
Moses in Luwero.
Yeah, you compared Uganda to be the best in governance. How are the living? What is the standard living of the Ugandans? Do you think?
Spectrum, hello.
Hello?
Yes, can you switch off your radio or walk away from it? Good evening, your name?
My name is Awere.
Yes.
I want to thank Kintu, Nyago, and the gentleman in the studio. Edmond, I think would be very, very good actually putting a regulation to operationalize the law. But you know, the timing, I think, was somehow panicky, which brings a lot of suspicion. But on the other hand, I also sympathize with the government. You know, when the governments are falling out of riots and so on, so you don't just things for granted. So that is the biggest problem. But for us as workers, we think that regulation may stampede on our rights as workers, because freedom of association, that law may be unconstitutional as far as the freedom of association is concerned. Thank you, and good evening.
Spectrum, hello.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
James Kashaya is my name.
Yes, Mr. Kashaya.
I want to thank you for that program. I want to thank particularly Mr. Nyago. You know, Edmond, for any effective state, you must provide order. Even in the market, let me tell you, there must be order. People, Mr. Rai was talking about US and UK, but Edmond, you agree with me, last past and 2 weeks ago, police has been crashing in New York with civilians. Was Rai watching that scenario? Why can't he, for instance, tell us whether those people abuse the human rights of those protesters? If the opposition want to change this government, there are other avenues it can use than bringing violence to our population. What we want is order. That law is going to help us. And that's why we are saying, for any effect, unless it is a stateless country like Somalia, right, but any effective state, it must use its means and laws to control and maintain peace and order. Thank you very much.
Mr. Arai.
I'd like to first respond to the lady who asked the question. She was making a comment actually that, you know, this law is meant to operationalize, or what we call an enabling law.
Yes.
To operationalize Article 29 of the Constitution, which talks of freedom of association, freedom of assembly, and so on. But you cannot operationalize by denying the essence of the article in the Constitution. Because what you are doing here is you are taking away the liberty which is granted in the Constitution. Because if the operation, the enabling, was made in good faith, you could say, all right, people at an assembly or demonstration, they shall not carry arms, they shall not carry stones, they shall not force others not willing to join, they shall be protected by the police. You know, you get negative aspects that can make the provision strong, but not to weaken it. So the whole thing is that this law actually takes away the powers, the freedoms, the rights given in the Constitution. It does not strengthen them. If the approach was meant to strengthen them, yes, I would have no quarrel with it.
All right.
But in this case,
it is weakening.
It is weakening
taking
them.
Away.
You know, sometimes the NRM government actually behaves like God. It gives with one hand and it takes away with the other.
God giveth, God taketh away.
You find that very many beautiful provisions which were enacted in 1995 Constitution
Yes.
are now being taken away.
Mr. Nyago.
That's my criticism, really. That's my problem with the government.
Thank you, Edmond, and I thank the callers for. I mean, that's the debate really that the enabling environment of President Museveni and the NRM have done, and that is very healthy. Now, is the NRM like God? That's blasphemy. The NRM has never aspired to become like God. However, coming to
The president said he's next to God.
that doesn't mean that it's God. I mean, it's possibly next to God, but that doesn't. And he's worldly. He's worldly, and yeah, that's true. Now, the point is, you know, it's important to understand that liberty is for all. Liberty is not for the rich, nor for the strong. So, if one rich man, for example, with 100 acres in Kasangati, decides to go and riot in an informal place of where Safina is selling gonja and tomatoes, that's an abuse of the liberty of Safina.
I'm supposing he just walks through.
Yeah, under the guise of walking to work. Why don't you walk on your 100-acre farm in Kasanga, and then you walk in Safina's work. You walk in Safina's whatever. You go to Kalera Market, where the wicked of the earth are trying to get a living, and then that's really very cynical. And nobody in his right mind who thinks for the underprivileged would allow that kind of abuse to go ahead in the name of liberty. Mr. Jimmy talks about Musa. I have no idea about Musa because I'm much more focused about the positive things happening in this country. About the situation in Luwero, I'll call her from Luwero. I think that's democracy at play. And the architect of that democracy is well known, Mr. Museveni.
Yes.
And if the people have spoken, so be it. So be it. That's democracy at play.
Yes.
Now,
Mr. Were says you're trampling on the rights of the worker.
no, I thank him for his very positive comments, but I mean, I think he got it wrong there. Now, look, the person again from Luwero called and said that Uganda's governance and how about our standard of living? Well, our standard of living, according to some study conducted some time ago, the lifting of people from poverty in Uganda, it's gone up, has been the highest ever recorded anywhere in the world. For sure, we came from a very low base, bearing in mind the kind of society we have, without power, without industries, without markets that are viable. But I mean, the lifting of people from poverty in terms of percentages has been highest in Uganda in any place, anywhere in the world ever recorded. And things are happening because within the next 10 or so years, Uganda is going to become a middle-income country. And these are not just fictions or propaganda. These are facts, and policies are in place. For sure, we should work harder. Workers' freedoms, not at all, because the law does not talk about workers' freedoms. Workers can freely associate, and the freedom of association is not only about powerful people going to trample in the marketplace. The freedom of association means many, many things. It means, for example, going to church. It means having clan meetings. It means, and none of those are curtailed by this law. Now, is it liberty? Is it democratic to attempt to change government, regime change through riots?
Through chants?
No, that nowhere in the world. You try it. I mean, in Europe, people who
in the Middle East
who tried insurrections like say Rosa Luxemburg and others were shot dead.
In the Middle East.
Oh yes, you can't try. People like Malcolm X had a big problem when he tried insurrections in the United States. So you can't try an insurrection in the gaze or under the guise of freedom, and you'll be allowed anywhere in the world to go scotch-free to harm society.
As we go, Mr. Arali, street law. What are you going to do in case these people press ahead with their law?
Well, we have many options, and one of those options is not to go to the bush. We shall go to the constitutional court.
You won't go to any bush?
No, we want to go to any. We want to go to any bush, and we want to call for street demonstrations because we don't want people shot dead. But we believe the court should be able, to look at the provisions of the Constitution, look at international conventions on what they say, freedom of association, freedom of assembly, and we think the results will be in favor of the people of Uganda.
So if they pass it, you'll still go to court?
We shall go to court to challenge it. And as the debate is going on, we shall make an attempt to meet the members of parliament.
Right.
And
talk to them.
to them.
About
Get with them.
We have to go. Thank you very much, dear guest, Mr. Solomon Webalearaali, Executive Director at Street Law Uganda. Thank you for coming to Spectrum, sir. Mr. Kintu Nyago, Deputy Principal
Been a
Private.
pleasure, Edmond.
Mr. Kintu Nyago, Deputy Principal Private Secretary to the President. Thank you for coming to Spectrum.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for tuning in. I've been your host, Edmond Kizito. Spectrum. We'll return tomorrow. Up next is the news in English.
Let the sunlight in.